an immediate sequel to my earlier video of just a few minutes ago, talking ultimately about self-discipline, the enjoyment of life, and what it means to lead a meaningful life. And then I guess separately, but saliently, the way in which intelligence infests every aspect of your life and makes many simple pleasures untenable for those of us who choose to be intellectuals, for those of us who choose to live intelligently. So one of the guys who asked one of these questions, inspiring my earlier video, wrote back right away. And in his reply, this is about in the middle of his reply, he says, imagine dividing your time into 3 buckets. 1, things that fulfill your vision of who you are. 2, mundane practical realities like washing dishes. And then 3, leisure activities. And then he goes on to argue that some things belong into each category. Okay? No, my dude. I don't admit of 3 separate categories. I don't even admit of the distinction between work and leisure. I don't even think there's an ethical or meaningful distinction here between things you do for money and things you do when nobody's paying you to do them. Okay? There's only one category we're talking about here. Okay? And the category is you. The product is you. The decisions you're making are about what kind of person you want to be. Everything else is just excuse making. And some of the excuse making is deeply, deeply culturally inculcated into us. Including that a lot of people ethically think, oh, well, these are things I only did on the job, so they don't count. That's not who I really am. Like, I go to work 8 hours a day, but that's not who I really am. This over here, this is what I do in my spare time. That's who I really am. There are guys who, divide their own mind. Like, oh, when I'm cheating on my wife, that's not who I really am. When I'm at home with my family, that's my true self or something. No. There is only one you. There is only one outcome we're measuring here. All right? So what I'm explaining in this series of videos, it's not difficult to understand. It's difficult to accept because you're challenging both values you've received from your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents going back 1,000 years, and also values that may be part of your enjoyment and experience of life on a day-to-day basis right here and right now. So the same guy writing to me on Discord raised the example of chess. Playing chess, and again, skiing. He says, well, you're very comfortable condemning cocaine and you're very comfortable condemning video games, but it seems to me you're not really comfortable condemning chess and skiing. Guess again. Oh boy, I live in Canada. I'm Canadian most of my life. Most Canadians think I'm insane because of my condemnation of skiing. They can't relate to it at all. They think of skiing as the apogee of refined bourgeois self-indulgence, all right? And I condemn it in precisely the same terms as cocaine. There's an overlap between these two things too. Skiing is very much linked to a whole lot of drug habits in Canada. No, my condemnation of skiing is absolute, okay? Playing chess, great example. Great example. Why do you think playing chess is mentally, morally, ethically, in any way better than playing a video game? How is playing chess better than playing Virtua Fighter on the Sega Saturn? How is playing chess better than playing any of the military strategy games? There was one called Military Madness when I was a kid that are very often directly based on chess. You're moving pieces around a board, and there are tanks and airplanes instead of rooks and knights, right? Why? Why do you imagine it's more intellectual or more mentally productive to play chess than it is to play video games? And look, in a recent video, I took on one of the greatest cultural sacred cows of all. And I said, hey, why do you think it's better to sit alone in your bedroom and practice repetitive finger motions playing a keyboard or playing a violin as opposed to playing a video game, okay? It's all bullshit. It's all the accumulation of excuses. All right? In some cases, there are excuses you made up yourself. In some cases, there are excuses you accepted from your parents. In some cases, there are excuses that accumulated over lifetimes and lifetimes, going back centuries or going back 1,000 years, handed down within families. Okay? There are some really serious ways in which video games are worse than cocaine. I'm going to tell you one of them right now. All right? My parents bought me video games. They gave me video games as a child. They sat me down and said, oh, good, you play video games while we go and do this other thing, whatever it was they wanted to do, right? My parents encouraged me to play video games, all right? My parents didn't encourage me to use cocaine, right? I hope this is true for many of you in the audience also, right? These habits, and probably this bullshit you're telling me right now, it's probably because your parents or other people in your culture, maybe school teachers, they told you that playing chess is something tremendously refined and sophisticated that intelligent people do. That playing chess is something that will make you smarter, right? Make you a better person. Maybe they told you that about skiing also, okay? It's all bullshit, all right? All of it. And if you're being honest with yourself, you'd question, how is it even possible for someone who's leading a meaningful life to enjoy wasting their time playing chess? How is it possible for someone who's leading a meaningful life to enjoy practicing the violin for hours and hours? Because I know I had an ex-girlfriend I rarely mention here, and she complained to me about, playing violin accurately. Every week you had to do a certain number of hours of drills to really play violin at a high level. You need to maintain this accuracy with your hand motions. How can you possibly enjoy doing that? Don't you have something better to do? And I don't even need to appeal here to anything external. I don't have to appeal to the idea of making the world a better place, of any kind of ethical, charitable mission, any kind of political ambition. No. I can just keep it all in one bucket. I can keep it all in one category. You. Why don't you have something better to do in terms of who you want to be, into who and what it is you're fashioning yourself into, right? Stuff is easy to understand, but it's very, very hard to live with. Okay? Have you ever been to a church? You ever been to a sincere question? I've known a lot of people on the internet who say that they're Buddhists or even that they're devout, like scholars and experts in Buddhism. They've never once been to a Buddhist temple. Right? It's 21st century. I think there are people who talk about Christianity on the internet who don't really have experience being in a Christian temple. You know what the most pathetic thing of all is? The people who are made happy by the song and dance. The song and dance itself isn't that pathetic. Someone plays the organ, someone says the benediction, right? But that there are people who are really smiling. There are people who really experience joy. There are simple-minded people who are taken advantage of by religion. And if you really start spending time at church, if you put on a costume, as I said before, if you disguise yourself as a true believer and stand there, if you're a person of real intelligence, of real brilliance, of real intellect, of real self-discipline, if you're a person who feels your own potential to be doing something more meaningful in the world with those few hours a day you spend in church, you will witness the tragedy of the people who are too stupid, who are too dumb to know any better, who are really sincerely elated by having someone in a robe tell them some vague bullshit about how they're a wonderful person, how they're going to go to heaven after they die. Vaguest nonsense imaginable. People who are smiling and clapping and full of joy over the performance of these rituals. Right? A lot of us, as atheists, we may feel a strong motivation to go to church, or if you're Muslim, go to attend a Muslim ceremony to make your parents happy, to make your grandparents happy, to make your aunts and uncle happy, to make some friend or relative of yours happy. Right? But when you're there, you feel this same tragedy more acutely and more deeply, right? Because you can't enjoy that ceremony. You can't enjoy the ritual. You can't enjoy the illusions and delusions of religion the way stupid people can. You can't turn your mind off and join in the fun. And on the contrary, What you see and feel is the tragedy of people who are trapped in the opposite mindset, who can't escape from their own stupidity, who can't escape from their own lack of self-discipline, who can't think their way out of this trap. People who are so pathetic as to find this happy. And on a tiny scale, each and every one of us now carries a church in our pockets, and we sit down to pray every time we waste a fucking hour on our cell phones. You could ride the subway and see people there playing match 3 tiles puzzle games, line up the blinking gemstones, whiling away their hours. And among them, the most pathetic, the most pitiable of all are those who are truly happy. When you examine your own happiness, when you examine what it is that makes you happy and why, whether it's playing chess or snorting cocaine, you are going to come to some very dark conclusions about who you really are. And then either you're going to get motivated to change that and think seriously about who and what it is you want to be, or you're going to retreat into making excuses in the name of this thing you call happiness.